Welcome to Banging on Doors, a conversation between leaders of the Community Loan Fund of the Capital Region and Yolanda Caldwell, Chief Diversity Officer and Director of the Women's Leadership Institute at the College of St. Rose, President of ACES, and owner of Titus Enterprises. Each week, Yolanda will talk with local entrepreneurs about their accomplishments and their challenges.
Welcome, Catherine, to Banging on Doors with Yolanda Caldwell.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here. I love the title of this podcast. I love it. So thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to hear all about you and what you're doing. But what I want to first start off with, tell us a little bit about Paint and Sip, and then I can't wait to get into a deep conversation about palette.
Of course, awesome. So Saratoga Paint and Sip was like the very first business that I started when I first moved here in 2011. I followed a boy. He ended up being my husband. We're still married 10 years this year. And it was just a fun thing that I used to do with my mom back home in New Orleans. And when I got to Saratoga and I was looking for something to do and it didn't exist yet, I was like, this is it. I have to introduce the Capital Region to this concept. And it was just an interesting adventure to introduce such a new thing. It was just like no one had ever heard of it. And I can even remember calling the bank and saying like, I want to open up a business. I don't know anything about how to do this. I literally just called the commercial department. And I spoke to the most wonderful guy. He was so helpful, but he also was like, thought I was crazy when I told him that I wanted to open a paint bar. So there was a lot of, tumbling through that entire process of creating a business plan on my own and getting funding and all those things. But in a nutshell is a paint bar. You show up, you sign up online in advance for what painting you want to be creating that night. And you show up, all you need to bring is yourself, and we are a bar, so you can buy beer and wine while you're painting. Okay. And we have an artist that walks you through it step by step. It is so simplified that anyone can do it. And you leave within a 2-hour period of the event, you leave with a created painting and something you can hang on your wall. Or I also say give to your mother-in-law for Christmas if you need a gift.
I love your story. You said you followed a boy and then you launched a business. Listen, you are very, very unconventional. So I can't wait to hear more. So I must share with you, I did follow a boy and we've been married 28 years. So, there is definitely hope. And then I did start a business. So I think we have a lot of parallels there.
Oh my gosh, do we ever? And, I will be the first to tell you, starting a business with your partner in life is really the most difficult, challenging thing that I could have ever set out to do. And, jury's still out. We're working, it's just an evolution of entrepreneurship and marriage and all in a nutshell. So, I really do choose to surround myself with people who are successfully managing that and navigating it and who are willing to give me all their secrets on how to do it, because it's hard. It really is hard.
It is definitely hard. The part of being an entrepreneur, even though it's glamorous, I think it's very glamorized by the media and glamorized by movies. But you and I both know I'm an 18-year entrepreneur. So we know the highs and the lows that come with being an entrepreneur. Tell me about one of your highest points in your journey as being an entrepreneur.
One of my highest points, and maybe I have to give a little background on how I got to this point. But so I opened the Saratoga Paint and Sip in 2012, really like a year after I moved to the Saratoga Springs area for my husband's job. So we, within 3 years, we expanded to 3 locations. I got pregnant. We got married. I got pregnant. So a lot of things happened in the first 3 years. And it was when I became a mom that I realized, wow, we really don't have, the support system that, that I really needed to carry on and to keep going through this process. I mean, I was lucky in the beginning when I became a mom that I did have great friends and great support system. But again, I'm from New Orleans, so I was, 1,500 miles away from my mom and dad. And I really needed to find my people. And being a small business owner, I found that I was a little like, I fell through the cracks, right? So like if I needed a workspace or a community space, it's either I had to go find mom friends or I needed to go find small business owner friends. And I thought to myself, like, can't we merge all the two? And then there's also this thing about, the corporate woman who may or may not be a mom. It's a different support system that you need when you're a small business owner. So I felt to myself, like, I can't be the only person who's struggling here to find their people. And that's really where Palette was born, out of that, the need and the missing, the missing feeling, like, what do you call it? Like there was a void, right? So
Yes.
I felt like, and again, I'm like all on I'm like obsessed with self-help books. I'm obsessed with self-development. I will never stop learning how to improve and like better myself. I will never stop trying to advance myself financially, emotionally, all those things. I'm just that type of person. And again, I felt like I couldn't be the only person that felt this way in this region, especially. And I was finding myself going to like women's conferences in New York City, or I'm a Disney fanatic, so going to Disney World, and I felt like I should not have to travel this far to find my people and to find this support system. I should be able to feel this way every day in the coffee shop that I visit, in the co-working space that I'm a member of, and again, the corporate co-working space did not speak to me. I clearly was never going to fit into that mold of that corporate working woman. Being a mom has always been something that I've wanted to do, and I wasn't going to choose, the corporate career versus raising a family. I truly do believe you can do these things simultaneously. You could advance these things simultaneously as long as you find the people who are going to support that. So that's kind of where Palette was thought up. And so back to like the moment that I felt like, oh my gosh, this is a real high, was when we opened the cafe space in June of 2019. And within 2 months, while we were building out the space, we uncovered this stairwell that was built into the building, and it was covered up by sheetrock, and they had made it into another room or something like that. So through the build out, we knocked down a wall, we found this stairwell, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is a sign, because it led to this underutilized retail space that had been vacant for like a year. But at this point, I was out of money. I was completely out of money. I had like depleted all my savings, and I also leveraged the success of Paint and Sip, borrowed against it to do Palette. Okay, so I was like completely all in. And I got on the phone with like a co-working space in Bozeman, Montana. It was another female-focused co-working space. The owner's name was Christina, and I just called her to touch, like, just to see if she would like support me emotionally. And I wanted to learn what was her concept, what was her strategy. And she had pre-sold memberships to her co-working space. And I'm telling you, when I spoke to Christina, she hadn't even signed a lease yet. And she had over 200 members who joined as her community before the space is even built. And I was like, wow, there's no way I would be able to accomplish that. I mean, by myself. I was also pregnant with my third daughter at the time. I'm like, that is just too big of a lift. And she goes, let me just ask you something, Catherine. Are you gonna do this with or without members? And I said, you know what? Yes, I'm gonna do it. I was just of that mindset, you gotta build it and then they would come. And she goes, so what if somebody came along and said, I'm going to pay you to just keep going, because you're going anyway, and you're going to get members anyway once you open. Why not have somebody there with you from the ground up supporting you? And I thought to myself, well, yeah, I guess if one member joined, it would be worth it. So I held an event in the cafe downstairs, and I was overwhelmed with the amount of people that showed up, predominantly strangers. Like Yolanda, strangers who I did not know. And Saratoga is a small town. I thought I knew everybody. That is not the case. These people came out of the woodwork. They were like, it was like 55 of us all crammed up. Of course, it was pre-COVID, all crammed up in this small cafe. And 10 people that night gave me checks, gave me credit cards, and said, we are going to join you. We want you to keep going, do this. And I was just incredibly overwhelmed. I mean, that was the first time that I had ever asked people for help, like asked people for money. That's a hard thing to ask for. I mean, it's one thing if you're going to the bank, but another thing to be sitting here in a public space with a flip chart and like a mood board and say, this is what I want to build. And I felt incredibly like the most vulnerable I've ever felt. And I had already had 2 children. So I just felt like, oh my God, here I am, cut me open. And then these people, just strangers. I mean, and obviously there were like 2 people who I did know join that night that I'm so grateful for, but the rest were strangers. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm on to something, and we're going to keep going with it.
This is interesting because there are a lot of stories, and if you said you read a lot, so you know that there is a theory out there that you're not really an entrepreneur until you sell to strangers. You know, as long as people who know you are familiar with you, maybe 1 or 2, maybe even 3 degrees of separation, you're not really an entrepreneur. It's not until you can get that person who you don't know to buy into who you are and what you're presenting and what you're giving. So you are an entrepreneur because you've had that success, you've had that high of walking in and making that sell and making that presentation, that pitch. So that is amazing. Congratulations. So
yeah, thank you. I mean, it
you
was
opened in June.
Unbelievable. Yes, so we opened the cafe in June, and the premise of the cafe was, look, this is no ordinary cafe. This is a really colorful. I mean, everywhere that we could have put sparkle and color, we did. And I mean, even down to the menu, we have like all of our cocktails are named after amazing, inspirational women to me, and to everybody, you know. So it was all women focused. I mean, obviously I always wanted to put a little sign in the window that said, you know, men welcome, just let them know that they can come, we welcome them, you know. But it's interesting, the men that do show or find themselves inside of Palette and even have joined Palette, like 10% of our membership is men.
Wonderful.
These are some emotionally evolved men, right? They're not threatened by women. They know the power that can have, like, that we have when we support women. You know, these are an exceptional type of man. So it's interesting. When we first started out, and I was like very, very loud and proud that this is going to be a women focused space where women feel comfortable, and anybody that wants to do business with women are going to find themselves in Palette also, because they want their customers, their colleagues to feel comfortable, right? Like, no more of this, like, us fitting into this other, you know, ecosystem. Like, this is our space, and everyone is welcome. You know, it's a very inclusive environment, and that doesn't it. And it's interesting when you come to the space, you can see. I mean, we have blue trim. It's not like overly feminine. It's just not overly masculine.
I love it. So you are really creating a true space for the whole entrepreneur, not just the business person, but the personal side of the entrepreneur. And that's really amazing. What advice would you give? Because you just talked about the reality of being a successful entrepreneur. For a lot of people, their personal lives are put on hold and they invest everything into their business. And then you have others who spend time managing their families and their business does not reach its full potential because of how they choose to spend their time. Now, how you define success, each person has to define success for themselves. But for those who are choosing to define success with a business that's successful based on revenue, return on investment, number of clients, whatever that measure is, in conjunction with having a successful marriage, healthy children, showing up for all of the activities. What advice would you give someone who's looking for that life as an entrepreneur?
Get help. You can't do it all by yourself. You absolutely can't do everything by yourself. And, you know, I think the other thing is you got to check the ego at the door, right? Don't show up here acting like you got it all together, because none of us do. None of us do. You know, I don't pick up my kid from school. I don't drop them off. I mean, there's a lot that I don't do at home, you know, but so there will be a trade-off, you know. I just don't want the trade off to be this or that. I want them, you know, like, and I think it's just as important for my girls to see me putting myself first, and putting my business first. And like, they understand if I'm not home, it's because I am doing this over here, and it's important also. You know, I think no one can do this without help. Absolutely not. And I'll be the first to tell you, if my help left, I would be left with nothing. So I always think like, it's interesting to see, people that I admire, I'm inspired by. You think they're up on the stage, they're talking, they're running a business, they have a happy family. And if you think they're doing it all on their own, you are like, that is the biggest mistake, to believe that people are actually doing it all by themselves. Like, and I use Beyonce as an example because everybody knows who Beyonce is. Beyonce does not do it all by herself. She's got a whole staff helping her with those kids, helping her with her marriage, helping her with her businesses, multiple businesses. It's impossible, like, the queen has help, and you don't have to be a queen or the queen to get the help, right? So just pick up the phone, reach out to somebody, and get the help that you need. And I'm talking like on all levels, right? Like, you need mental support, you need emotional support, parenting help, marriage help, business help, finance help, marketing. And it's like organizations like the one that you represent, Community Loan Fund, that is what your purpose is. That is what you're there for. That's what Pallet's here for, to lend a hand and basically be the help that I didn't have. I had to figure this out on my own. And I'm grateful that I've gotten to this point. And now it's like, I'm opening the floodgates. Like, everybody come along for this ride, because I'm not going to stop. I'm all brakes. All gas, no brakes. I always say, stay in my lane, and I'm all gas, no brakes, right? So you'll never see me here talking about, I can talk numbers, to up to a certain extent, but then I got to bring on the experts, because
Okay.
You have to stay in your lane and get the help you need.
Listen, I hear everything you said. Stay in your lane, get the help that you need, all gas, no brakes. With that being said, what's next? How are you taking your business to the next level, or what do you need to take your business to the next level?
Well, global domination was always the goal. Why not globally dominate with kindness and collaboration, and demonstrate what it looks like to show up, demonstrate what it looks like for women to show up for each other. And I think that's important. It's like women showing up for each other. It can be done. And it is happening. I would not be here if it wasn't for women helping me. My people will always be like my priority.
I want to thank you. That is a great note to end on. People are the priority. Even if you're an entrepreneur and you're running your business with everything that you're doing, if you keep at the heart that people are your priority, you will definitely see a measure of success. Thank you, Catherine, for joining me today. It has been a pleasure and a joy engaging with you and having this conversation. I want to thank our audience for joining us for this conversation with Catherine Hover of Paint and Sip, and also Pallet. And I want to thank our sponsors, the Community Loan Fund, the Albany Center for Economic Success, and the College of St. Rose. We hope you've had new insights so you can go from banging on doors to having customers bang on your door. Thank you again. Have a great evening.
Want to support more businesses like this? Join the Community Loan Fund's Emerging Investors Network. When you invest money with the Community Loan Fund, we pool that money with other investments to build new businesses, develop new community projects, and support the valuable work of nonprofits, all right within your community. Every investment earns interest. Plus, you'll have the opportunity to meet with businesses you've helped and see your money in action. Learn more at www.mycommunityloanfund.org.
The College of St. Rose is celebrating its 100th anniversary, but we are not slowing down. We're still focused on educational excellence and serving the dear neighbor. And we're doing it with new degree offerings, including a bachelor's degree in nursing, the only sales major in New York State, and new graduate programs to meet busy and changing lifestyles. Plus, our 2 and 4 programs where you can earn a bachelor's and master's degree in 4 years. The College of St. Rose is building for the future. Build your future with St. Rose.